Hi, everybody. Okay, you might remember my friend Charlotte if you've watched previous videos. She is going to be interviewing me
I'm asking the questions today.
with questions that y'all have been asking me, and I have just not had the time or space to answer.
Yep.
So let's get into it.
Okay, first question. Do you feel, this is a big one, do you feel at peace about your move?
Ha! Peace, yes. Yes. I have contradicting thoughts about my move because a part of me is very, very, very aware that I'm being called to leave and I've been being called to leave. And another part of me is like, I can't believe you're leaving your dream nature.
Yeah.
You know, I heard the whippoorwill the other day and I was like, I can't believe I'm leaving. And then I came into Atlanta this weekend and got to connect with so many beautiful people and I was like, I can't wait to leave. So I feel at peace with holding two contradicting thoughts because it's just like what it is. It is what it is. Like, yes, it's going to be a wonderful thing. It's going to cause some anxiety, which is going to test me to make sure I'm staying on top of my practices. But ultimately, I know I'm answering the call, and it's what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. How did you process the loss of Steve and Marlo?
I think the biggest part of processing the loss of and like I have a bit of a privilege in saying that I knew this was going to happen with Steve, and I also knew this was going to happen with Marlo. So I had been processing losing them while they were also here. And I also think that just allowing myself to feel the feelings and not judging them, but not judging what also didn't come up. Because sometimes you have these expectations that you're going to go through this big loss or this big grieving process, and then you don't really. Like, I feel that way with Marlo, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I didn't honor her loss enough by, you know, falling apart. And then when I reframe that, I'm like, actually, the reality is it shows me how well I've done with my healing with Steve that I didn't fall apart because I'm able to process that it's really hard for Marlo not to be here, but like the two things existing at the same time again, I was talking about. It's also, there's a bit of like relief in knowing that I don't have to put her through all the trauma of taking her out of the house every day. And I also never felt comfortable leaving her home, which is where she would have just happily stayed sleeping in her beanbag, not being bothered, and leaving. She wanted to be with me, but leaving was also stressful for her because she had pain. So I have allowed space for all of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of how I've processed it a lot. And also, I have this understanding that the impermanence of life is part of what makes life beautiful. And so I know that I cherished every minute of every day I got with him. So that helped.
Yeah. I'm going to kind of connect two questions.
Okay, connect them.
How do you handle holding space for your clients? And how do you use your healing in your therapy?
Okay. Holding space, I was terrified about because I actually thought I was not going to be able to after losing Steve. And
Marlo, too. You weren't sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know if I was going to be able to go in and have those conversations and just then be doing therapy, but it just comes to me. There is no actual understanding or science I can explain behind it. It's just kind of who I am. And that feels really nice because I just go and then I'm able to be in the space. I think that it's because my whole life I've spent time sitting outside processing all of the traumas that happened to me that I've gotten so used to sitting in my stuff that sitting in other people's stuff is just second nature. That's my thought. I obviously don't actually know how to explain that. But then in terms of using my healing, therapists are kind of taught to be blank slates, and I've never really vibed with that. I'm gonna be myself. I'm gonna be professional, and I'm obviously not gonna turn an entire therapy appointment to be all about me.
Yeah.
But there is ways in which you can use your story in therapy, and being able to explain the ways in which I have processed and worked on my healing then is like how I'm able to embody it within my therapy. You know, if I'm telling somebody to do something, it's because I've done it.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be like, I think you should try brain dumping, gratitude journaling, or allowing yourself to sit in it instead of running away from it, accepting where you're really at. I can say all of that from an experienced, embodied place. And I think my congruency is what makes people connect,
Yeah.
because they can feel that I've had my own experience, because I'm not delicate about what I share. I'm intentional.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to share something that's going to make the focus be on me, but more so make it be where my point that I'm about to make sticks.
Yeah. Like relatability.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, something. Yeah. So, speaking of that, working with your clients, are you attached to your clients, and how are you going to leave them with this big move?
Yeah, I'm actually attached to them. Actually, kind of in my mind, saw myself living in the mountains forever when I first moved up there, and I also love the concept of like clients growing with their therapist, because my clients have helped me grow so much as a human.
Yeah.
And I think they also motivate me to keep myself accountable, and there's just been so much beautiful witnessing their growth, and that in turn motivating me to grow more. It's just something about the resiliency you witness in humans that it's gonna be really hard to leave my clients, but I know that I'm leaving them in good hands. I also know that I will call in the next batch of people that I'm supposed to have some sort of influence with. So I have to trust that and focus on that instead of focusing on the separating. Plus, it's been a really good experience kind of talking it through with them, because this is something that I think we all need to do better at talking to. There's so much ghosting and so much just like up and leaving and not explaining to people. So it's really been nice to having like a healthy like closure. I'm giving them all a lot of time to process it.
How to process the end of a relationship,
Yeah.
any relationship.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And it feels like, it's teaching me to communicate the hard things even more, and hopefully teaching my clients the same.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So this is kind of ending it up, but it's kind of a big one. Well, it's kind of two questions. We'll go with one. Do you have any resentments from caregiving? That's a big one.
I did for a very long time. And I actually think it's only been recently that I've realized that I don't have as many. I'd be lying to say if there wasn't a few moments where I'm just like, ugh. And it's usually, like, I got myself kind of in a very bad financial situation while caregiving, and I didn't have the brain capacity or the know-how to like communicate to anyone, hey guys, I need help like figuring out how to not let this tank me. And I mean that literally in every form. I got tanked mentally. I don't have resentment about that much anymore. I've done a lot of process and healing that. It's the financial not understanding the ways in which I should have protected myself for after that I didn't think about, and that nobody really even said anything to me about, because we were all in such survival that I think I still sometimes, like, when I'm thinking about selling my house and buying one by myself this time, and my credit score and where it could be and where it is and why it's where it's at, it's like, it frustrates me. That's not necessarily resentment towards Steve. Maybe more the system.
Yeah.
That's a thing that I, even in the position I was in, should have had to worry about. So, because, the only bad financial decision I ever really made was getting student loans, yet it was moving to grad school was the best thing I ever did.
Yeah.
It's what got me to Atlanta. So,
but that's not, yeah.
So in terms of caregiving, I don't resent myself anymore for any of the like ways in which I reared my ugly head, and I don't resent Steve for it. And I used to resent some other people, and I find myself resenting those people way less and less. Like, yeah.
So the next question will just round out everything nicely, and we'll
Wrap it up with a bow?
Finish that way.
Okay.
It's like, you have mentioned that you've done one well healing. How did you get there?
A lot of things. First of all, I think allowing myself patience. I don't really have a whole lot of patience. She can say this, like, I want things to happen though right away, and I want them to sort themselves out right away. Like, I wanted to be good at art right away. I want to have everything healed right away, and I think that this journey of healing had to unravel that, because It wasn't happening right away. And there was a whole year that I had to just learn to sit in my absolute messness of it, like, and embrace it and learn to love that part of myself. Learn to be okay with the fact that I cried to random people at a bar, or that every person I met had to know that my husband died and that's why I am who I am. I still actually do that. I still tell most new people I meet pretty immediately that my husband died, and except for my clients, obviously. That's like the one major exception. But like, if I meet you in the world and you're just running into hope in the wild, you're gonna know. And
Such a part of your story.
it is,
Yeah.
and I no longer judge that. For a long time, I was like, that's cringy, how embarrassing. And I think that it's the acceptance. It's just allowing myself to be wherever I was in the process at any given time, and also being fully understanding of like the cycles and the spirals. Like, you think you're good, and then you come around this bend and you're triggered again, and to learn that it's all just information instead of feeling as if I went backwards or I was bad. It was like, okay, well, that's good to know. I still have to work on that.
Yeah.
Still needs some healing around that. And yeah, patience, process, like following the process instead of trying to constantly be in control of the process, accepting the process, loving myself throughout all the different stages of the process. So I think there's a lot of grace that needs to be given while you're healing, because there's a lot of times where you kind of celebrate, I'm so good, and then something comes and trips you up and you want to just tell yourself, way to go. But that's so normal.
Yeah.
And
it's not backwards.
That's
it's just
so
normal.
part of it. And actually, each time you find yourself in the rabbit hole of whatever it is that's grief or the spiral or the whatever you're healing from, you are able to get out of the hole quicker because you learn so many tools and you learn them deeper. Like, something sinks in a little bit more where you're like, and there's so many lessons that come in each times of that. So I hope that answered that. Squirrel brain?
Yeah, no, it's good.
Okay.
It's good.
All right.
We love squirrels though, but yeah.
Okay, so I hope you all are happy that I finally answered some of these questions. I've been avoiding just a tiny bit. So we'll do this again. So send some more. You could comment down here if there's anything else you want me to talk about.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye.